Do you feel fatigue when you raise a cat? That's how the creatives are feeling as well. So, creative fatigue has a distinct mathematical shelf life. The audience saw your ad, then they saw it again and again. On the third or fourth exposure, they stopped seeing it entirely. This is called ad blindness. Their brain categorized it as background noise. CTR stopped, the algorithm noticed, CPM climbed, and your cost per acquisition followed. Most teams only notice when the CAC spike is already on the dashboard. By then, the damage is done. The response is a fire drill. Brief the agency, wait for 2 weeks for new assets, scramble to replace the fatigued creative, watch CPMs briefly recover, and then repeat the same cycle in 6 weeks. The brands winning on paid media today are not faster at running the fire drill. They have eliminated it altogether. They forecast fatigue weeks in advance. They know exactly how many new assets they need each month before performance degrades, and they have them already. Let me explain exactly what is happening inside the ad auction when a creative fatigues. When you launch a new ad, the audience encountering it for the first time has a relatively high probability of engaging. The hook is novel, CTR is healthy, and the platform rewards it with competitive impression pricing. If the ad is good, of course. As frequency builds, as the same audience members see the same ad a second time, a third time, and a fourth time, the novelty decays. The brain's pattern recognition system flags the ad as familiar and reduces the attention allocated to it. And then CTR is falling and the platform is noticing. And to maintain delivery, it charges higher CPMs. So your cost per acquisition follows. This is not a random event. It is a process with a measurable trajectory. The CAC spike is the lagging indicator. It appears after the fatigue process is already well advanced. For most brands, the CAC spike is the first signal they see, but it is the last signal in the sequence. The creative fire drill is not just operationally exhausting, it is financially expensive. When the CAC spike triggers the creative briefing process, the typical timeline from spike detection to new asset going live is 4 to 6 weeks. During that entire period, the fatigued creative is running at degraded performance, and the new creative that arrives at week 4 is starting from zero algorithmic history. The true cost of the reactive cycle is 6 to 8 weeks of preventable performance degradation. For a brand running significant ad spend, that is a material financial event, and it repeats every time the fire drill runs. Here is the calculation that most performance marketers have never done. How many new creatives does your account need each month to sustain ad spend without performance degradation? 4 inputs. First, your average creative lifespan, the number of days a typical creative runs before CTR has declined enough to warrant replacement. For most D2C brands, this is between 21 to 45 days. Second, your active ad count target. How many ads running simultaneously to ensure healthy delivery? For a brand spending 20 to 50 to 100,000 per month, this figure is typically 30 to 100 active ads. Third, your hit rate, the percentage of new ads that become genuine performers. The industry average is 20 to 30%. The actual reality is 5 to 10%. To maintain 15 performing creatives, you need to launch significantly more. And fourth, your monthly replacement rate. If the average creative lasts 30 days, you need to replace your entire active library every month. So put this together. 50 to 100 ads divided by a 15% hit rate equals in hundreds of new creative concepts needed per month to maintain 30 performing ads. That is not a realistic briefing pace for most teams, which is why the pipeline approach is the only model that scales. That is not a realistic briefing pace for most of the teams that are not aware of Nexus, which is why the pipeline approach is the only model that scales. The pipeline framework has 4 structural components. First, a fatigue threshold alert. When any active creative CTR falls below a defined threshold, typically a 25 to 40% decline from its launch week baseline, that creative is automatically flagged for replacement briefing. This gives you 3 to 4 weeks at lead time before the CAC impact. Second, format diversity monitoring. If 90% of your active ads are static images and the algorithm is consistently showing your competitors' video ads with higher completion rates, you are losing the action on a structural basis, not a creative quality basis. Third, a hook and angle library. Every creative should be tagged by hook type, primary angle, emotional trigger, and offer mechanic. Over time, this library tells you which hooks produce the highest CTR, which angles convert at the lowest CPA, and which combinations have been overused. And fourth, a scheduled brief cadence. Not reactive, scheduled. Every week, a prioritized list of replacement creative briefs generated from the decay data. The pipeline runs continuously. The fire drill never starts. The creative velocity module inside
e-commerce-benchmark.ai
is benchmarking your ad activity against your category. 3 critical data points: your total active ads versus the category median, your creative format diversity, and your creative rotation speed. If the category median is 25 active ads and you are running 7, you are running a creative library with no redundancy. When one ad fatigues, it represents 14% of your total inventory. For a competitor running 40, one fatiguing creative is 2.5%. The structural impact is completely different. The format gap is equally telling. If your competitors run 68% video and you run 5%, you are invisible in the placements where the algorithm is directing the majority of category impressions. The creative radar inside OmniConvert Nexus closes the gap and keeps it closed. It tracks the decay curve of every active creative continuously. When a creative CTR begins its decline trajectory, the system flags it at the threshold point and generates a replacement brief automatically. The brief is grounded in your hook and angle performance library. Historical data from your own account about which hooks produced the highest CTR and which angles converted at the lowest CPA. The Creative Radar maps your ad library against competitors using the 8-axis taxonomy: primary angle, hook type, offer, objection addressed, emotional trigger, content style, target segment, and confidence score. The white space zones, the angles and formats your competitors are not covering, are surfaced as priority testing opportunities. And then it produces the creative needs forecast. Not you might need some new ads soon, but you will need 8 new creatives by week 2 on the 14th. Briefing deadline to avoid CAC impact, February 28th. The top D2C brands are not running more creatives because they have bigger teams and bigger budgets. They built a system that tracks decay before it becomes a crisis, a system that generates briefs from performance data, not panic. The fire drill is a structural problem. It happens because the creative process was designed as a reaction rather than a forecast. The pipeline converts it from reactive to proactive. And a brand with a proactive creative pipeline is running a higher volume of tests, accumulating more algorithmic data and learning faster. The creative pipeline is the compounding advantage that widens the gap. Stop running the fire drill, build the pipeline. The brands that never run out of creatives are not lucky, they are systematic. And to be systematic,
go to e-commerce-benchmark.ai.
It is completely free and it allows you to diagnose your ad library and your competitive landscape instantly. And then check out Nexus. You have a free trial and you can do all this creative intelligence like this. And that was it. If you want to level up your e-commerce, check out the next episodes. So become a subscriber today.